Hello everyone, my name is Boris, and today I am going to be a VOD reviewing Kiyoon. We are here in the last Prismatic Zillion portal, and in this game he played a comp that has been rising in popularity lately, and was played quite a few times also in the TPC over the weekend, and is quite good at securing top 4 slots. And there are quite a few ways you can approach it, so let's gonna see how he manages to arrive to the spot on this one. The idea of the comp is to play around Belveth and GP and Mbessa, and if you manage to get Bilge soon enough, you're able to also go for GP3, which gives the comp possibility to play also for like a third or a second. And your win condition is generally to try to look for the 3-star a 4-cost, because you're playing some of the least contested 4-costs in the current game. And as well, it has some favorable matchups into something like Fizz, as you generally do not run backline, so the Fizz is not able to take you out. So coming up in the augment section here, we have a Milio and we have a Laui pair. Not fully established direction, but we're probably going to be looking to play around this Bruiser core, a tier and a cloak with an adaptive slam. And reroll high voltage right away, where augment is generally not that great, and we are not fully locked into playing the AP line just yet. Harder Steel would be something that we would want to start stacking, but generally we want to make use of the advantage of the earlier games, longer fights to stack it up, which would require us to have some upgraded frontliners. It's not exactly what we want right now. Speedy double kill is something that we would also want to play from a tempo spot where we're able to capitalize on the other TP layers going out, as otherwise if we are not able to cash it out, it's a very weak augment, and it just loses its value going into the other stages quite a lot as well, and in my opinion is a little bit overpicked. We have an option for Ward to 8, so we might end up just going with Speedy double kill, as Hustler is not exact. We're just gonna rip it anyhow, so perhaps defaulting Hustler here, and alright, we're gonna go with the tempo option of Hustler. We are lucky to find the TF in the shop as well, slot in the Bruisers. Gonna see if we're just gonna give up on the Milio and use that extra gold to level up to level 5. Try to put max tempo as we can, but we are unable to unlock TF here. This is one of the interesting starts where, unless you get an item early, we are probably not going to see many Bilgewater players, so we might be able to, and we do get a GP right away, so we're able to get Bilge in this way, which is nice. See also a GP in the shop with a dupe, but you're probably going to be looking to first print some upgrades to get a tempo going, and then might start seeing if we were going to be able to chase a GP3. Generally through the Bilgewater shops it's quite easy to be able to arrive to a GP3, as the most Bilgewater boards end up dropping him later as well. And since the Bilgewater shops are also tied to your unit pool of the other units, you might be a little more common to find GP in the later stages of game than Nautilus. Albeit I'm not 100% sure of how the shop odds work for the Bilgewater shop. Fighting a Crown Demacia from Dish Soap, and yeah, this lobby is if I'm not mistaken this is day 1 of the Shurima Cup TPC of North Americas, so you might see some familiar names. So you have the champion Wajan Iverson, Quintanilla, which made quite a long run as well. Crazy Cat is also known name on the NA ladder. We are on the first spots here, so we're just gonna grab a 3-cost with Dr. Mundo here, and are able to unlock Graves with a slam of Adaptive Helm. I would assume that we're still keeping open the option of being able to play more in a vertical type of Bilge from here, as generally what we're looking for the GP and Belveth, both of them really like QSS, and then Belveth can use any kind of bow items. Sure, itemization is flexible in that sense as well. And talking of Belveth, here we are able to high roll a Belveth, so we're probably going to see if we can play around that. She's generally a strong unit, especially if you can get some resets on her going. And so we're just going to drop the Adaptive Helm from her right here, and while perhaps not the item you want at this stage in the game, like, there's not going to be many stronger things. floating around. Also, I'm going to pick up a Briar 2. And this is going to give us a 3 Slayer, so we're perhaps going to be looking to how we can transition. Also going to drop into 5 Bilge with the purchase of Nautilus from the Bilgewater shop. It's already going to be pumping level 7. Yeah, just going to pump all the way to level 7. We have a Kraken here to unlock Fizz. And now we would be looking for MF. But another part of this comp is that you do not exactly need to fully capitalize on your Bilgewater shops, as in getting to the 7 Bilge as fast as possible. You can transition into it later, as Tom Kench is a nice addition for this comp, and it's something that would definitely make your cap higher, especially if you're able to drive to a Tom Kench too. But it's not necessary, as you can play some other unit like Scion, for example, in the spot. Now here up on the second augment selection, we are offered Gold Destiny, Bronze for Life, and Spreading Roots. Bronze for Life and Spreading Roots are generally great augments. Bronze for Life has fallen a little out of the favor at the moment, but this comp is one of those that can actually run it quite well. We're gonna see if we arrive to some sort of board that can use it. So I'd assume we're just gonna rip. He just decides to rip Bronze for Life right now. Since we're on streak, we're looking for immediate combat power. Hence, we're not gonna be thinking of the game this far. We get offered Celestial Blessing, I believe. Yeah, Celestial Blessing 1. We're gonna have some Omnivam from Slayers. It's a decent addition, but not exactly what again we're looking for right now. The Spreading Roots, people are looking for the combat at the emblems, very high value emblems, very high. And okay, we're just high rolling the Belveth right out of the way. And we get a Vanquisher emblem, which is also a very neat emblem, especially in this comp, that we are able to slot on the Belveth here if we are quick enough. And we reforge into Ionia emblem and another cloak. That's the cloak is you can use quite a few cloaks as well here, and it's generally an uncontested component. So if you are playing from a temple spot like this, you might be end up being good to a few cloaks and able to take it. Now, unfortunately, this is where we're hitting the Bilgewater players who have managed to upgrade quite a lot of your units. So we lose out to the Brew from Twisted Fate. From Vision Iverson, it is. Brew TF from Vision Iverson. Here against the Dishto board, it looks like he's playing more around the Crown of Demacia with tempo, and perhaps looking to play into some sort of a Wayne game. Not exactly so sure, but let's see if Kiyoon is mapping out the comp. I would assume he's looking to slot in 2 Void as well quite fast, which is another neat part of this comp that is... You can play around Herald in it as well if you get early Void, so it can be some sort of a bailout that you go out if you start with the Void opener, and then here on 3-5 when you're just looking to, from a general leveling pattern, to stabilize on the GP2. Similar as we did in the last patch with something like Leona or Draven. Here again, another Even Shroud goes with another use of a cloak, and we still have an open cloak for it. We will ideally want to look to transition into a QSS, but we have not seen any gloves yet. Now, we are probably looking to use our build shops now to fish for some upgrades. And here we find our Exile, which is another way to slot in Void. And the way we can play around for Void here, for example, would be if we did have early Void and we could get to a Herald, we can slot in a Herald, and then... Which would be... Well, you can do a Cho'Gath for a Juggernaut. And you could theoretically also run Kaisa if you have some backline items to support her. There are quite a few ways to approach the line. The most standard line, I'm not sure if we're gonna arrive to it, but we will see. The most standard, if I'm not mistaken, is to just run 2 Slayer, 2 Vank, And then with some extra front lines. And alright, we're just high rolling the Belveth this game, and we've been able to get aboard an emblem, which is quite neat for this comp, since we're running Nautilus, and board and has breakpoints of 1. So we're able to just slot it in on any kind of unit and make our front line a little beefier, as this comp generally looks to overwhelm your opponents rather than be able to sustain fights. Coming up here on the last augment selection, so we roll Rust Claw Gloves. This isn't exactly what we are missing right now, and we're still very high HP. Would like to keep up some tempo. Component heist is going to be just a little too slow for us. And I would assume that we're also passing up on perhaps the Celestial Blessing, as it might take the Celestial Blessing 1 is stronger, so if we passed on that, we might also skip that, and Retribution would give us a 2 Hands of Justices that we could just immediately use in GP either, though there is some redundancy with the innate ability to crit. Alright, and we're just gonna find the Soul Awakening on the last roll. Extremely strong combat augment, even after the nerfs. It's one of the better options to generally take. And it's exactly what they do go for. Slotting in, it seems the Draven now to just fill some Noxus. Noxus is another way to add some pseudo frontline to this comp that will not have it as much of it if you're not playing around some sort of Herald version. And perhaps Draven will be able to plunder still a bit of gold, but unfortunately we came into a Bruiser Swain 2. So we picked up a Kog'Maw, we planted Kog'Maw, and then we just saw the Kog'Maw. Alright. Another thing that you generally can do in this comp is to, once you are not seeing any of the GPs, you just buy health and attack speed, which are the two better stats. And if you have some soul shards at some point, you might also pick up some of the AP-ADs, but generally attack speed and health are the best options for Gangplank, and as we see Kiyoon doing it here as well. We have a GP in the shop, so we're only a couple of GPs away. Unfortunately, we do not have as much items as we would perhaps like to. This is one of the things that the comp and general meta would us want to have, is just having items. More items and items, is that gonna give us a tempo? And if we arrive to a GP3 here, we have the option of essentially having 3 itemized carries plus a tank. With Belveth and GP3, and then we itemize either if we're very high rolling our shops and everything and we have the econ, so we could go for an all-3, otherwise we're looking for something like a Swain tank. Unfortunately, the issue with the Swain is that it's going to be quite hard to 2-star, due to being how contested the unit is. Hence, the general option to look for Rift Herald is better. Also, since we are in such a highest position and we have a Hustler, he's opting to go for 9, and that's one way to cap out. And we, of course, also have the Belveth too, so chasing an itemless Ambessa 2 is not exactly the plan we would like to go for. But this comp, the advantage of this comp is that you are able to send it on level 8 quite deeply to hit your units, and also chase Gangplank 3 that way. As when you go to level 9, you are essentially just improving your odds for Shyvana or Fiddlesticks. However, they are not crucial components of this comp, and we would rather prefer to stabilize in most spots. But if we are able to play from a tempo spot like this and have so much of an econ, we can go to 9 and start chasing our 3-star forecast with slightly better odds. This is the thing to note, that if we don't have our forecasts on level 8, the forecast odds are 30%, while on level 9 they're 33. So generally you will always be better off in this set with the current leveling intervals to just chase your 2-star forecasts on level 8. Still a few GPs off, and it looks like we completed a Deadblade here and a Hodge. And we're opting to cube the QSS on the gangplank, since he's a frontline melee unit, and we're hoping that the Belveth is gonna be kept protected some ways from the CC through our front line. Unfortunately, as you can see, she does get a little stunned. And I believe also Stas is going to implement that QSS is the best item. And we can see already pings going in to warn us about the Ambassador, that's probably the Belveth 3 coming in. And yeah, this is the board you can run with a Scion placing in place for Rift Herald, and then that way you are getting 3 Noxus in. But generally we would drop the Briar. Briar and Noxus, Briar and Scion would be in the individual units, and you would slot in a Swain for the Juggernaut slot, but as we can see, the Swain is quite contested. This is also a thing to note about this comp. It plays around something like Mel. Mel is quite an easy unlock in this comp, and you could just cap around like Melazir, given a hard spot. Unfortunately, Mel is a weaker unit at the moment. However, I can see this comp transitioning also into other patches, since it's been around already from PBE, just not as prominent. And in the PBE, we did cap around Melazir. So I would see that as an option here, and yeah, just natural swap. Once we get to the TK, we can swap out the Laui for a TK, or we could have looked to swap out Scion, but that would make us drop. That would make us drop Noxus, and for Bilgewater would not do much, but there are variations depending on what you have. So, well, this might seem a straightforward comp to play. There is some nuance and flexibility that you can play around. We're going to start feeding Tomkench some health or some AP. We're still, unfortunately, a single GP off, and this is why perhaps you do want to greed sometimes a little bit more of the Serpents from higher build tiers, is to just ensure that you have enough to be able to find the GPs. They do cost 50 Serpents a pop, and you are preferably buying some stats as well. But we have managed to already secure our top 4 and now a top 3 with the Disho being eliminated. So we're left only with CMB and Quintanilla as our opponents. Unfortunately, this is where we might hit the wall, since the cap of this comp is to... Well, the win condition of this comp is to 3-star of 4 cost, since it does not compare with the caps of likes of Rise and Ziggs and Bilgewater. But its mid-game is very consistent, which makes up for it in a sense. And I would imagine that we are able to get a second here. I'm gonna pick up some kind of healing on the Belveth. This Rageblade could just really go on anyone. However, we are starting to struggle to burst through the front lines of the other comps, especially since we're not managed to get to the GP3 yet. We're also a little poor to be able to chase the Belveth 3. This is where also the part of the Hustler comes in. An augment that generally plays for top 4s, as even with the making use of the econ generating traits, it's harder to arrive to max caps. And yeah, it seems that we are just losing to the Ziggs 2 is gonna run us over. We're gonna have a hard time, and we are not able to get to our GP3. We do decide to pass up on both Lucian Senna and all the other 5 costs. This Lucian being another one you could theoretically slot in, and Shyvana. But CMB got eliminated by Quintanilla, so now we're just gonna be going up against a Yordle board from Quintanilla. And yeah, the Ziggs 2 cap is just a little too high for us. However, we have managed to see how... We did manage to see that through a good tempo play and perhaps some high rolls, but generally from this comp being very stable in stages 3 once you get to the GP, and stage 4 once you're able to 2-star your Belveth. The comp is quite stable in the meta, where lots of people are looking to sack their stages 4 to go to 9, and you're able to make your collabs back and squeeze your way into the top 4. Especially, we did not even get to the GP3, and if you do, you have a considerable power spike that is able to carry your way to the like mid stage 5 once the full 2-star 5 cost boards are coming online. And this is a great display of Kiyoon, just making use of that. This comp also strives from combat augments as he displayed through something like a Soul Awakening. I hope you enjoyed watching and you learned something new just as I did, and I do hope to see you in the next ones as well. Peace.